Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to London, and this is a brewery who I've heard some really good things about, but it's going to be the very first time I'm actually trying one of their beers. So we're going to head to Bermondsey, which is quite close to Tower Bridge, and we're doing my first ever beer review, my first ever taste of a beer actually from Brew By Numbers. So for this one we're going to have a taste of number 2002, which is a Belgian pale with Ella and Sats hops. It comes in at 4.5% and it should be quite interesting. As I said, I've heard some very good things about this brewery, so definitely looking forward to this, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Brew By Numbers. Very first time I'm tasting one of their beers, of course, but hopefully I can do more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you, and that's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. And in particular, let me know about any other English craft breweries and London-based craft breweries that I should have a look at. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brew By Numbers then. So Brew By Numbers, as I mentioned to you earlier, are based in Bermondsey in London, very close to Tower Bridge actually, and they were founded back in 2012 by Dave Seymour and Tom Hutchings. So apparently Dave and Tom met on a rock climbing tour in China, and then they travelled through Asia together afterwards. So Tom went back to the UK after travelling Asia, while Dave actually ended up in Cairns in Australia, where he encountered the Blue Sky Brewery, and he was just kind of taken aback by the fact that there was so many different types of beer and that you could do so much differently during the brewing process. Although Blue Sky Brewery unfortunately are now defunct. When I was in Cairns back in 2015, they'd sadly just kind of closed up. But soon after he moved to New Zealand and he bought a home brewing kit, and that was him kind of hooked on the idea of having his own brewery. Tom, however, apparently had always been interested in food because he came from Ludlow in Shropshire, which has a bit of a culinary reputation, and he's also a long-term friend of Toby Munn, who's involved at the Kernel Brewery just down the road actually from these guys at Brew By Numbers. And he visited Dave in Australia and tried a lot of the different craft beer, and then he became hooked himself. And when Dave got back from New Zealand after a couple of years, they started planning their own brewery together. And when they started, they were actually part-time, but they held down other jobs. They were basically brewing in somebody's basement from what I understand. But Tom was a freelance sound engineer, and he liked the idea that it was good money, but he also had a lot of time to kind of experiment with his brewing and learn new things. While Dave trained as a barista and worked with coffee after learning that he hated working in kitchens. He'd done a degree in product design, but apparently just really didn't like the work that he was doing with that, and that was why he decided to go travelling, of course. But the brewing officially started with Brew By Numbers in 2011, and they were helped a lot by Toby from the Kernel, and also by Andy Smith, who's from Partisan Brewing, who's just a little bit further down the road from them. But they wanted to stick to their home brewing roots, and so they continue to produce a lot of different beers, and they've done this very successfully over the last few years. They actually have a little tasting room at the brewery as well that you can check out. It's very close to Tower Bridge, like I was saying, and the Bermondsey station. It's about a 10-minute walk or something like that. But the first two digits of the beer that you'll see on these, apparently this indicates the type of style that the beer is, so they do have a numbering system for that. And then the numbers on the left-hand side here, on my left, your right, I guess you'd say, the second set of numbers, these actually indicate the version of this style of beer that they're doing. So it's quite interesting. But as of their 5th birthday, which was December 2017, they've produced well over 250 different beers. I think one of the double IPA or something like that they produced for their birthday was beer number 258. So you're always going to get something quite unique from these guys, and it is kind of an interesting business model. It actually reminds me a little bit of Beerbibliotek over in Gothenburg in Sweden, but maybe this is where Beerbibliotek actually took their idea from. But these guys say they took their idea from Kernel a little bit, because Kernel are always producing lots of different beers as well. But I do like that kind of numbering system that they have, and it does make them quite unique in that way. But as I've heard, the English guys who are doing the beer reviews, Craig, Rob, Harry, and Dean, of course, all of these guys are telling me that they produce some really nice beers, so I'm glad that I'm finally getting to try one for you here on the channel. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about the brewery. As I say, check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and all these kind of things, and you can keep up to date with the latest goings on at the brewery. But I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one. It is quite simple. It's just a nice kind of basically straight up, almost brew sheet type thing. It tells you a little bit on the side of it there. On this other side it says unfiltered, unfined and unpasteurised, bottle conditioned. It just tells you a little bit about the ingredients as well. Served between 5 and 8 degrees, which this one will be, having been out of the fridge for about 10-15 minutes or so. So yeah, plain bottle cap on this one. It would actually be quite cool if they put a wee BBNO on the top of these, but maybe that's quite expensive for them to do. But without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. So yeah, nice little bit of smoky opening there, and we'll get it out and into the glass. And I tell you something, right away you can smell some of that Belgian yeasty quality coming out of this beer. You can see that it was quite clear initially, but there's a little bit of sediment in the bottom of the thing. And this is one of the things that apparently they do like to make themselves a bit distinctive about. They do quite like to have a bit of a Belgian edge to their beers, apparently. So that's one thing you can always guarantee with these guys, is that you're going to get something quite interesting. But as you can see, and as you would kind of expect from a Belgian pale, it's poured a nice kind of quite bright goldeny straw colour. You can see there's a bit of haze in there. That's both from the sediment and from the Belgian yeast, but the Belgian yeast does tend to give you a bit of sediment if you put it in the fridge, even for about a couple of days. You can see there's a solid finger of a frothy, I would say pretty much perfect white head on this one, but it looks really nice. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there. But overall, it does look quite nice, and pretty much what you'd expect. You can smell some of that Belgian bready, doughy, yeasty character coming off it, like you would expect. But let's have a closer look at the aroma then, and just see how we get on. Yeah. So it's those doughy, yeasty notes that I'm talking about that are dominating the aroma on this one. So there's a nice bit of bready quality in there, that thicker, doughy, yeasty note. There's a little bit of there's a very slight banana note to it, but not very much. There's a little bit of an almost peppery spice to this one, I would say. It does have a little bit of a kind of peppery element. Some nice light grassy hops. There's a little bit of a floral aromaticity to it. Some lemony notes. And a wee bit, maybe just a little bit of grapefruit. I mean, the Ella hop is an Australian hop, and it does give you a little bit of grapefruit, but also some kind of tropical notes, whereas this beer I think leans a little bit more towards the kind of grassy side of things. And that'll be the Sats. The Sats gives you a really nice, almost sharp lemony note, but it does gives you these nice kind of German noble hop qualities, although I would say it's a little bit spicier in its floral aromatic kind of output than the German hops like the Hallertau and the Tettnanger are. I've got to see some Sats hops growing up close when I was at Pilsner Urquell in Czech. That was a really interesting experience. But it's a really, really nice smelling beer, this one. So as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But let's have a go at this one now. So this one is the 2002, a Belgian pale with Ella and Sats from Brew By Numbers in Bermondsey down in London. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål. That's pretty nice, actually. You know, first thing that would strike me about this beer, my first impression of it is it's a session beer, this one. You could drink a couple of these quite easily. 4.5%, definitely in that kind of sessionable range, if you like. But it's very nicely done. Yeah, I like how that one comes across, actually. So the malt base on this one is quite, I would say, it's really smooth actually. As it mellows out a little bit, you can feel a little bit of a kind of grainy character just pushing its way out, but you've got that nice bready sort of wheaty quality that just blankets the middle of your tongue there. As you progress further and further on, there's a nice little bit of I would say, a little bit of grainy character just pushing its way out. And there's a wee bit of an almost biscuity sweetness in the middle of your palate. There's a little bit of banana in there, but not too much. A good bit of clovey spice, and I think a little bit of peppery quality in there as well. And that kind of suits the grainy note that's just pushing its way out of this beer. But in terms of a Belgian pale ale, it does have, pardon me, pretty much what you would expect. But yeah, it's nice, and it says on the back of the note here, the brewer's note with this one, crisp, dry and balanced Belgian style pale ale. To be honest, he's called it spot on pretty much, but when it's a brewer, you wouldn't expect anything different. On the hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, I'd say you've got a little bit of earthiness there. That'll be the Czech Sats hop, of course. maybe just gets a tiny little bit herbal in front of that, but then it quickly becomes quite a spicy kind of floral aromatic note that you get towards the front kind of corners of the tongue. And as you go round the very front curve of the palate, it's a bit lighter and a little bit grassy as well. So that nice sort of Czech Sats note is coming out of this one quite well. The Ela, from what I remember, doesn't give you too much of a spicy floral aromatic note. It's a bit more of a kind of nice fruity sort of thing that you'll get from Ela, but it is a nice hop to play with actually. The Australians are producing some really good hops these days, and Ela's one of them. But yeah, with this one I would say, if you just go behind, pardon me, if you just go behind the front curve of the palate a little bit, that's where you get this oily bubble where these nice juicy fruity esters come out, and you're definitely getting a bit of grapefruit in there. That nice dark flavour that you expect from grapefruit is just sitting there. On top of that though, and as the beer kind of progresses on a little bit, you start to get some of those slightly lemony notes that you expect from the Sats. So there's a really good balance between this one. The Sats has come up as a really, really nice bittering hop with this, and it gives you that nice kind of almost sharpish, but not quite tart. It's not really a tart lemon you get from this one. It's got that nice slightly darker lemon quality, and that mixes very well with the grapefruits that you're getting from the Ela too. I mean, the brewer's note on this one is pretty much spot on. It's just a nice, easy drinking, straight up Belgian style pale ale. It works really, really well. It'd be interesting to see them take this one and add a few more fruits, like, you know, for example, say try it with Nelson Sauvin or something like that, or some of the other New Zealand hops. I think this base that they've got with this beer would work really well if they put some different hops and things in it. And it would be quite cool to see them go for a Belgian IPA to kind of strengthen it up a little bit, because I think they've got a pretty solid base and a good yeast strain with this one. So it'd be interesting just to see if I can try some of their other versions of this later on. I'm not sure how often they produce these. As I say, they've produced like 250 odd beers already in their 5-year existence, but this is a nice one. And as I say, the brewer's note on this is pretty straight up. It's pretty spot on rather. It's, you know, it's a straight up, quite crisp, sessionable Belgian pale. You can't really ask for much more than that. So, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say this one's pretty light bodied. Carbonation is sort of middle of the road on this one, moderate carbonation. Not very oily in the mouthfeel this. It's more of a kind of lighter, kind of crisp mouthfeel that it has. A little bit of hoppy bitterness. Malt base is quite smooth. There's a little bit of grainy character comes out of it later on. There's a wee bit of fruity note as well, but the fruity note is kind of dark in this one. The hoppy bitterness does build as you progress further and further into the aftertaste with this beer. So I would say you've got a little bit of an almost bitter quality from the malt base in this one. As I say, those grainy notes pushing themselves out, and the kind of floral aspects of the beer as well. But overall, it's really nicely done, and on the basis of this beer, you know, I would say that I want to try some of their other ones. I'd love to try some of their stouts and things like that. It'd be nice to try a dark beer from these guys and see how it comes across. So hopefully I can track some of those down and see how we get on. But in terms of a Belgian pale ale, they've certainly produced a nice, quite easy going one with this. So I'm glad that I finally got to do a review from these guys. And hopefully it's not the last. So yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of sign off on this review then. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer if you have tried it. Let me know what your favourite beers from these guys have been so far. Actually, if you can, do let me know the numbers of it as well, because this was definitely quite an interesting one. So thank you once again for watching. Like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Check out my social media, follow Brew By Numbers on Facebook, check out their website, all of these kind of things. But a really nice, crisp, kind of session pale, Belgian style pale ale, this one. So check it out and have a go at some of the other beers if you get the chance. It is cool to see that London is producing some really good craft beer these days, so I'm glad that I got to have a little look at this one. Until the next time, Slange just now, and we'll catch you soon. The Brew By Numbers 2002, a Belgian pale ale with Ela and Sats. Prost. Slange, whatever.